What's up, guys? I don't know how long the stream will be. I think we're basically just gonna read like two or three chapters or something. And then I'll probably stream again later today. I haven't streamed. I gotta get back into the habit of doing it, and also my sleep schedule's broken, so that's why we're doing this. I'm not even gonna bother. Well, no, I'll mention the live stream people. Oh, good. Twitter chat works. All right. IHL, am I right? Am I right? We had like chapter 7 of this. I'm targeting. It was really good. So we're reading more of this because I want to understand more of it, and that's what we're doing. Introduction. When the International Law Commission (ILC) was established in 1947, it was tasked with the promotion of the progressive development of international law and its codification. At its first meeting in 1949, the Commission set about examining areas of international law that were in need of such codification or progressive development, and the question of whether the law of armed conflict should be selected as an area of study was raised. The ILC canvassed a number of opinions, including whether war had been outlawed, whether war having been outlawed, the regulation of its conduct ceased to be relevant. Ultimately, the ILC decided not to proceed with the regulation of its conduct and ceased to be relevant. Oh, sorry. Okay. Ultimately, sorry, I'm tired. I woke up. Just woke up. Okay. ILC decided not to proceed with an examination of law of armed conflict on the basis that if the Commission, at the very beginning of its work, were to undertake a study, public opinion might interpret its actions as showing a lack of confidence in the efficiency of the means at the disposal of the United Nations for maintaining peace. The ICL position on the law of armed conflict in 1949 touches on an attitude towards the law that's often expressed by newcomers in the field. How can one introduce and restrain into an activity uniquely contrary to those qualities? How can there be laws to regulate and constrain behavior in situations that are essentially lawless, where injury and deaths of persons and damage and destruction of property are a given and even hoped for outcome? Indeed, there is ample evidence through history to demonstrate that when wars erupt, barbarous acts occur, and the architects and perpetrators of such barbarity often escape without being held accountable for their acts. However, there have been numerous examples throughout history of people, groups, and states willingly agreeing to conduct their wars in accordance with certain humanitarian dictates and limitations. The reason for agreeing to constrain warfare conduct vary. They can be for religious, ethical, political, or pragmatic reasons. Nevertheless, restraining warfare has been as much a part of the war as a lack of restraint. Indeed, as this book demonstrates, states have accepted and continue to accept and embrace increasing regulation and sanction on their conduct in armed conflicts. It is a question of restraint in warfare and how it is given legal force that is the focus of this book. Comprising 9 chapters, this book looks at the major areas of IHL, putting them in historical context so as to better understand how law has evolved. This book also examines the current challenges and pressures on the existing law, as IHL rules adopted in the time of cavalry and bayonets must adapt to deal with issues like drones, cyber warfare, and autonomous weaponry. Chapter 1 looks at the historic development of IHL from its origins in Europe in the 1850s and the historical events that have shaped the law throughout the last century and a half. Chapter 2 then outlines the contemporary framework of IHL, examining treaty and customary laws that govern conduct in armed conflict and exploring the fundamental principles of law. Chapter 3 examines the type of armed conflict. Okay, so I guess I should say this book seeks to... Oh, wait. Did I do the wrong thing on YouTube again? No, I didn't. Why did... Okay, that's weird. Doesn't really matter, though. Oh, emergency alert. Let me check. I think. Yeah, I don't know why it. Okay. I got 2 notifications for the video, so I was in my Discord server where I had the bot set up to give the notifications. So I didn't know if I had accidentally done that thing. It's hard to explain, but with Restream, where I accidentally have 2 different live streams and I'm only streaming to one of them. Okay. 6 to explain and examine the historical development of IHL, as well as its contemporary framework as more states agree to IHL principles that limit their conduct in warfare. Chapter 1 looks at the historical development of IHL, Chapter 2 focuses on the contemporary legal framework of IHL. Chapter 3 on the types of law and conflict regulated under IHL. We definitely need to read that one. I don't know if we'll read this entire book, but Chapter 7, which we already read, is interesting. We definitely need to read Chapter 3 and Chapter 2. We'll read Chapter 1 because it'll probably be useful, but I don't know if it'll be too relevant. What's up, Harry? Welcome to the stream. Chapter 4. On the concept of combatants and non-combatants and its connected status that are prisoners of war. Examines who is entitled to IHL combat status and examines those persons who have been denied combatant status, and POW status under IHL. Chapter 4 also explores the current legal thinking regarding a contentious area of law that of direct participation in hostilities. Chapter 5 looks at I've read about this before. My understanding, how are you? I'm doing pretty good right now. Is that, or the way I've always heard it explain, I guess maybe it's more contentious than I thought, is that if you're, taking direct part in hostilities, then you can be targeted for such time as you take direct part in hostilities. Even if you're not like a member of a military or organized armed group. Like members of organized armed groups like Hamas or the military wing Hezbollah can be targeted no matter what. If you're, let's say, like a civilian and you directly take part in hostilities, for such time you take part in hostilities, you can't be targeted. But if you go home at the end of the day, so long as you're not an official member, you only briefly participated, you can't be targeted once you go home. Whereas members of the organized armed group can be targeted when they go home. That's how I've always heard it described. Chapter 4 on who is protected or who is entitled under IHL combatant status. And examines persons who have been denied POW status. I don't get that. And Tuah on your sleep schedule. Yeah, it's a little messed up. I woke up at like 10 p.m. or something, and then it's broken. It's fucked. I don't know. It's fucked. Chapter 5 on the rules regarding the protection of the wounded, sick, and shipwrecked members of armed forces, and those who care for them, medical and religious personnel. Also, he died like a dog.
Wait, what are you doing? Why are you still peeing?
True. I can't believe it. Hassan has died. Thank you for the follow, Fox. By the way, Hassan should be banned. Oh my god, Hassan should be banned.
Oh
I forgot about this. Holy, there's no shot Hassan should not be banned from Twitch. They say he's suffocated us all. Hassan should a million % be banned. Thanks, Fox Warrior Gaming. I appreciate it. Oh, D0. That's it. Well, welcome to the stream. Is this your first stream, buddy? Hassan should, like 1000% be banned. Fuck. Where's the videos? Oh my god. I mean, I made a tweet about one thing.
Of course, I don't believe the human.
15 minutes of him doing pro-Houthi propaganda. Dude, you know what infuriates me so much? Not only is he doing pro-Houthi propaganda, he just lies about it. He just lies. Like, this is him bringing, I forget who this guy is. Yeah, they are. They a million % are. His name is like Nick or something. I don't know. It's another streamer. Not a political streamer, an uneducated streamer. Okay. The fact that he brings this uneducated streamer on, and then shows him Houthi propaganda, and then secondly lies about that Houthi propaganda to make it seem like what they're doing is somehow like justified here. Listen.
This is Rust. Bro, they fucking look at this.
I don't know why it's
they
so
got the
quiet.
Palestinian flag that they painted under the helicopter with the Yemen flag. They fucking overtake. They start overtaking the ship by an Israeli corporation.
Okay, here's what he said. Yeah.
Like, guess what, dog? No more trade to Israel. If you're an Israeli, if you're owned by an Israeli corporation, or if you are actually sending ships to the Israeli port of, it's not Eilat, it's the other one that is now bankrupt. But what was the other port? Haifa, right? Is it Haifa? Is Haifa the bankrupt one? Anyway, there's a lot of information. I can't recall all of it. But
There's a lot of information. I can't recall all of it.
Into Israel. If you are owned by an Israeli subsidiary, if you're owned by an Israeli corporation.
Yes, we get it. Okay, if you're owned by Israel.
You cannot fucking use this trade route anymore. Guess what, bitch? It's our fucking territorial boundary, and we're going to enforce this until you stop doing genocide in Gaza. Because they say it. They're like, listen.
You see, this guy has no fucking clue who Houthis are, by the way. And Hassan just said, we're gonna, he's making it sound like this is some legitimate thing that they're doing. First of all, the Houthis aren't the government of Yemen. And Hassan knows that. He's just knowingly lying to this dude to make it seem like what the Houthis are doing is somehow legitimate. They're not the fucking government of Yemen. They can't enforce Yemen's territorial waters because they're a terrorist militia. They're not the government of Yemen. Secondly, the Galaxy leader was not in Yemen's territorial waters when it was seized. He was showing them literally the video of them hijacking that ship, which was not in this is Yemen, way the fuck over here. Here's the Galaxy leader, way the fuck over here. Okay. And yeah, also, they it's not like they've only bombed Israeli ships. There have been cases of them bombing non-Israeli ships as well. So that's insane too. Yeah, Yemen, it's like even if they did own it, they couldn't enforce it because it's the Houthis. Second of all, even if the Houthis were somehow within their right to enforce it, and even if they did seize a ship in their territorial waters, they probably don't even have a fucking right to do that. Because the way the law works, which I'm assuming probably going to read a little bit more about this in his book, is so there's like 3 zones of water. There's your territorial waters, there's your continuous zone, and there's your exclusive economic zone. Your territorial waters is basically your sovereign territory. Your continuous zone, I don't know exactly what it is, but so your territorial zone extends 12 miles, and then the continuous zone another 12 miles. You're granted your territorial waters. You're granted almost all the rights that you are, like your own sovereign territory and land. The continuous zone, I don't know exactly what rights you're granted, but you're granted a little bit less than the territorial zone. And then there's the exclusive economic zone, which you're granted exclusive economic rights for the resources in. But you don't get to kick ships out of the exclusive economic zone. The exclusive economic zone extends to 100 miles. Ships from foreign nations are guaranteed passage through that. You can't tell them not to go through that, number one. And the two zones where you can, in theory, sometimes not allow ships through is it's only 24 nautical miles long. I haven't found a good map of this, but I'm almost certain that Yemen's territorial waters don't even extend to where these ships pass through in the Red Sea. They might be in Yemen's EEZ, but you can't kick people out of your EEZ. Second of all, ships are guaranteed innocent passage through even your territorial waters, even your like sovereign territorial waters. Ships of all states, whether coastal or landlocked, enjoy the right of innocent passage through the territorial sea. Passage means navigate. Okay. Passage is innocent so long as it's not prejudicial to the peace, good order, or security of the coastal state. Such passage shall take place in conformity with this convention and with other rules of international law. They say like a bunch of things here. My understanding is that this applies to Yemen and not Palestine. I know they don't care about the law, but Hassan is just lying. Because he knows he's doing this. He's intentionally framing it to seem like the Houthis are doing some like legitimate thing under like IHL when like they're not at all. Yeah, but then like somehow like when people bring up like all this Houthi simping he does, he's like, I know they're a terrorist organization, but that's why I don't technically support them. I just think that the genocide in Gaza is really bad, and people like I guess don't call him out for it enough or something. It's wild. But my understanding is that this would be counted as innocent passage. Like this ship is obviously not posing any threat to Yemen. So they probably couldn't do that. And even if it was, the thing is, in order for it to be a lawful military objective, we read about this when we read Chapter 7 of Targeting. Yeah, they're freedom fighters. Like, it has to offer a direct military advantage, not like a speculative military advantage. So let's pretend for a second that this Galaxy Leader ship and all the other ships shot down did somehow pose a threat to Yemen or even to Gaza, and Yemen somehow has a right to enforce that. I still don't even think this would be a lawful target, because it's more of an economic target than it is like an actual direct military target. What's funny about this is I'm certain that we could find clips of Hassan saying like he doesn't support sanctions on either like Iran or Iraq because it doesn't because it's an economic target that harms civilians as well or whatever. But the Houthis do it, and that's somehow okay. Somehow the Houthis do like economic warfare, and that's okay. But the U.S. does it, and that's evil and harms civilians. Which, by the way, aren't the leaders of this? Aren't the Galaxy? What's it called? Galaxy Leader? Aren't they still hostage? Galaxy Leader ship hostages. Aren't they still? I think they're still hostages. I'm pretty sure, or prisoners of war. They might not technically count as hostages. They might technically be prisoners of war, but they're searching for the One Piece, bro. This calls them hostages. Not hostages. Technically, like, in order for it to be strictly hostages, you have to do it, like, with the intention of, like, getting something out of it. Like, you have to, I think the technical definition is you have to do it with the intention to change the actions of a third party. So, like, that's the reason the people in Gaza are hostages, is because they intentionally took civilian hostages with the intention of getting Israel to either release prisoners from the West Bank or using as negotiating tactics to end the war and get a ceasefire. I don't really know if the Houthis are doing that in this case, so they might not technically be considered hostages. Whereabouts of the hostage is now publicly known. They have no connection. Repeatedly called. They have no connection. Nothing. Blah blah blah. Ship owner said that the members have been allowed modest contact with their families who are being treated well as expected given its circumstances. The U.S. Department said its seizure was a flagrant violation of international law. I think they're dead. I mean, they could be, but. Caribbean held hostages. The Philippines said that they had no indication the Houthis plan to release the crew. Claimed that Houthis had no claims of our own regarding the vessel. Turned it over ship and hostages. And that they had turned over the ship and hostages to Hamas and its Al-Qassam brigades. Oh, but they let the this is funny. The Houthis actually let the Red Cross visit them. Hamas doesn't allow that. By the way, Sinwar is where it's going. This is a I forget exactly how it works, but like technically you're supposed to let the Red Cross visit probably both prisoners of war and hostages. Hamas doesn't let them do that though. Probably because they're all being handcuffed to Sinwar. Sorry, not all of them. Just 22 of them. Only 22 of them are allegedly handcuffed to Sinwar to make sure the IDF can't bomb them. Where's the... Oh, it's already here, so it won't. I don't think they can be prisoners of war civilian if they're civilian workers. I don't know exactly how it works, but I'm pretty sure... I'm pretty sure you... I thought you could be. Because if you're... Like, if you're a fucking... I'm trying to think of an example. They can be military vets. I mean, I thought, like, yeah, if you serve, like, a civilian role within the military, if you're the fucking chef of a ship, technically that's probably a civilian role or whatever, if you don't carry a weapon or anything. We'll read more about it in this book, I'm sure. But I thought they could be. Also included guerrillas or civilians who take up arms. Okay, combatants, non-combatants, some combatants, non-combatants, if they're affiliated with the armed forces, have special mission. This includes medics, journalists, okay, so, sure. But they're not, I mean, they're not, like, associated with the military anyway. Yeah, I don't know. But my understanding is that the strict definition of hostages means you have to do it with the intention to get something out of a third party, which I believe is in one of the articles from the Liber Institute, hostage taking. IRC or ICRC defines hostage taking as the seizure, detention of otherwise holding a person to hostage accompanied by the threat, so it has to be accompanied by the threat or to kill, injure, or continue to detain. Okay, so I don't know if the Houthis have made any public threats to continue to detain them or to kill them or anything, or to injure them, but they definitely are continuing to detain them. That person, in order to compel a third party to do or abstain from doing any acts as explicit or implicit condition for the release, safety, or well-being of hostage, must include an intent to join action with a third party. In this way, even soldiers could be considered hostages. Oh, this is true as well. I forgot about this. Yeah, technically, prisoners of war can become hostages if you start threatening to fucking kill them in order to get something. Merely seizing individuals, even civilians, is not always unlawful. Even if it is arbitrary and therefore unlawful, it does not necessarily qualify as hostage-taking. What makes this qualify as hostage-taking is Hamas's explicit threats to kill a hostage for every Israeli airstrike and Hamas's implicit goals of using a hostage as human shields and and leverage and prisoner exchange. So you could, I mean, yeah, like this, unlawful. It's arguably arbitrary and therefore unlawful, but it might not necessarily be hostage taking if they haven't made any threats or anything. This chapter also looks at a law regarding what is perhaps the most recognizable emblem in the world, the Red Cross and its affiliated emblems, the Red Crescent and Red Crystal. What are these? I don't know what the... What's the point of it? Diplomatic confidence during the war. The Ottoman Empire declared it would use a Red Crescent instead of a Red Cross. So you want to talk to a fire? You know, I did actually watch during my party while friends were over. We watched every episode of Talk Tua. All three of them. They're not horrible. It's about the most I can say. I mean, it's not good, but like the one girl, the girl in the first episode, Tucker number 2. Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's like Joe Rogan, Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, and Talk Tua. It's so funny. It's like, yeah, it's literally Adolf Hitler, Adolf Blitler, and Talk Tua. How to little finds and protects the oldest persons who are not engaged in who are not designated as combatants or POW civilians. Forms that focus of Chapter 6, which examines how the law protects civilians who find themselves in the hands of adverse power in situations of belligerent occupation. That'll be interesting. We read a little bit about that before. I wonder if it'll go into if occupations can be lawfully created in wars of self-defense. Examines. How civilians? Oh. Are protected in cases of belligerent occupation. Subject examines that the rules occupying powers must observe when in international armed conflicts they find themselves in temporary possession of territory that belongs to another sovereign state. Additional rules regarding the protection of civilians from deleterious effects of the conflict provide the focus of Chapter 7.
Deleterious.
Deleterious, causing harm or damage. Seven, law targeting. Chapter 8. We read that one, by the way. But Chapter 8 looks at the general rules to apply. Apply to which means and method of warfare, what kind of weapons are prohibited under IHL. Means of method of warfare. Also examines a number of means and methods to focus on budget tension, but whose legality is highly contested, including the use of nuclear weapons, white phosphorus, depleted uranium munitions. I think Israel also uses depleted uranium munitions. Cyber warfare, drone warfare, and targeted killing. The final chapter of this book looks at how all these rules are implemented and enforced, and what mechanisms are hold violators or law accountable for actions. Chapter 9 focuses on enforcement. Certain topics related to the law of armed conflict have not been examined in this book. For example, the law of neutrality, the interaction between IHL and human rights law, the law of peacekeeping. Furthermore, other areas of the law are touched on but not examined in specific detail. As such, specific rules on naval and aerial warfare and international criminal law. My understanding is ICL basically just takes IHL and criminalizes it. It's just a code of how to criminalize IHL. It's always supposed to be more narrow than IHL. Sometimes it isn't, though, and that creates a problem. This decision was made not because the authors considered the topic significant. Rather, we wish to provide detailed but comprehensive, comparatively concise assessment of what we consider to be the core rules of IHL. That would also make the law accessible to newcomers to the field, but also offer something to practitioners also. I'm basically a practitioner. Historical development of international humanitarian law. Introduction. Oh wait, I just need to heading 3. Can I not make heading 3 not bold? Whatever. For thousands of years, different societies have recognized that there are certain acts that are, and others that are not permissible in war. There's evidence of rules regarding warfare in ancient China, India, and what we now call the Middle East, dating back to 2 millennia BC. Hugo Grotius, the great 17th century Dutch jurist regarded as the father of the law of nations, devoted one of 3 books comprising his 1625 masterpiece on the law of war, peace, and to the rules applicable in war. In it, he drew on extensive examples from ancient Rome and Greek practice and literature to conclude that a number of principles were part of the law of nations. Practices that he asserted were forbidden included the use of poison and poison weapons and rape, destruction and the pillage of enemy property were permitted, as were the killings of all those in enemy territory, even women and children and prisoners. But Brutus drew a distinction between what was legally permissible and what was right, compiling a extensive list of moral prohibitions that included killing women, children, prisoners of war, and categories of non-fighters, and positive requirements in moderation of the conduct of hostilities. Okay, many societies. Have recognized the need for limiting conduct in warfare, dating back to ancient China, India, and the Middle East. Dating back to millennia. That's surest. Duh, 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 duh. What's the first book describing? Cheap viewer. I gotta buy these cheap viewers, guys. They call it a masterpiece. It is 1965. Another great European jurist, Gregor Friedrich von Martinez, described a similar set of rules in warfare that have become custom by the late 18th century, of particular interest in light of subsequent developments. On Vars Martinez' views on the treatment of the vanquished, where he asserted that the victor, he who remains the master of the battlefield, ought to take care of the wounded and bury the dead. It is against every principle of laws. It is against every principle of the laws of war to refuse or neglect to do either. He described his duty as dictated by humanity. Little laws and usages of war continued to evolve. The practice of states was by no means uniform. In many cases, these rules were, as gratuitous put it, if not of all nations, certainly those of the better sort. By the middle of the 19th century, many of these usages may have indeed become customary into national law, but they had not been codified in multilateral treaty. This began to change in 1856 with the Declaration of Paris at the end of the Crimean War, establishing a few short but important rules on maritime law in the time of war. But it was the following decade that saw the modern law of armed conflict or international maritime law begin to take shape with two separate but concurrent developments. What's up, Stone Nerd Poofish? Stoner the Poofish? Great name. I followed you. I followed you to YouTube. I rarely use Twitch. Based. Give me watch time. Yes, based. YouTube watch time. That makes sense. We had that combo, but fuck. I remember that. Okay, the 1856 Declaration of Paris codified a few. Rules in maritime law in time of war. After the Crimean War. But IHL would not truly begin to take shape until two quite separate concurrent developments. Tutan in the Battle of... Can they make these easier to pronounce, dude? Okay, how do I pronounce this shit?
Henri Dunant. Henri Dunant.
Henri Dunant.
Henri Dunant.
Battle of Solferino.
Battle of Solferino. Solferina?
Battle of Solferino.
Solferina. Okay. The first battle was the Battle of Solferino in June 1959, fought between the innate forces of Austria and a French Piedmontese alliance involving over 300,000 men. It was one of the great battles in the struggle to unify Italy, and the most bloody, lasting only a day. The battle left 6,000 dead and nearly 40,000 wounded. I already got to pronounce it. Henri Dunant or something. A Swiss businessman who happened to arrive in the nearby town of Castiglione on the day of the battle and witnessed the aftermath. He was so moved by what he saw that he wrote a detailed account of his experience published. Oh, Nikki Ray was 16. Thank you, Nikki. I appreciate it. Welcome, everyone, to a boring-ass stream. Okay, thank you. Welcome. Thank you, Nikki. I forgot I set up my stupid sound alerts to do that. So moved by what he saw that he wrote a detailed account of experience, memories of Solferina or whatever the fuck. He described how the army field hospitals were woefully inadequate and soon overwhelmed. In addition to the thousands dead, many more thousands of wounded and dying men were left in the battlefield without water, food, or medical care. It took many days for the wounded to be collected and taken to nearby villages and towns. More than 9,000 men were brought to Castiglione, where Tutant and the townspeople did what they could to help alleviate the suffering, but there were few medical supplies and fewer doctors, and wounds quickly became infected from the heat, dust, and lack of treatment. Tutant organized a group of volunteer helpers as the cowboys brought a fresh contingent of the wounded men to Castiglione every quarter of an hour, and a shortage of the assistants, orderlines, and helpers cruelly felt. After a few days, the crisis eased, as the wounded were transported to hospitals in larger towns, but as Tutant discovered when he left... oh my god. I don't know how to pronounce any of these French or fucking Italian or Swiss words. I'm sorry, guys. Less Castiglione for Brescia? Something. There's a shortage of volunteer orderlies and nurses everywhere. Upon an example of the lack of care cited by Tutant was the dying of a soldier who had letters from his family at the post office that would have brought him great comfort, but the hospital's workers refused to fetch them. When well-meaning townspeople brought unsuitable food to the hospitals, access was limited to those with official authorization, which few were willing to seek, and their charitable zeal began to wear off. Tutant saw that the selected and competent volunteers, sent by society, sanctioned and approved by authorities, would easily have overcome all these difficulties. He therefore called it, in his 1962 book, for the establishment of societies for the relief of the wounded, organizations of experienced volunteers, recognized and accepted by the commanders and armies in the field, who would provide immediate treatment of the wounded on the battlefield, and for states to agree by treaty to grant such access. This would alleviate suffering as early as possible and prevent the exacerbation of injuries, amputations, and deaths that have resulted from neglect and infection of Solferino. This was not a original idea, as Tutant admits, but the instant popularity of his book ensured its wide dissemination. Okay, after this guy witnessed the bloody battle of, or I guess it's capitalized, which left 6,000 dead, nearly 40,000 wounded. As well as the subsequent inadequacy. I spelled inadequacy. What's up, Reckless Brian? Welcome to the stream. Governing treatment. Was he injured? This is, how do I make the sentence shorter? In his 1962 book, does not mention the name. He recounts the inadequate care the wounded received and thus called for the establishment of organizations of experienced volunteers organizing auxiliary commanders and armies in the field who would provide immediate treatment of the wounded battlefield, and for states to agree by treaty to grant such access. ADHD subway surfer as a GMT parkour interesting layout. Duh. You think people are gonna read or watch me read this shit if I don't have Subway Surfers? Okay. Fuck this British spelling shit. I do have normal layouts. It's just that when I'm like strictly reading, I do this. Because it's funny. And for the Gen Zers out there whose brains are fucked up by TikToks, just like mine. This would alleviate stuffing. It's really okay. We read that. This was not wide dissemination. Okay, read that. The 1864 Geneva Convention. Dutton's suggestions were taken up by the Geneva Convention Society for Public Welfare. In its early 1863, a committee, including Dutton, was set up to develop these ideas. The committee organized an international conference in Geneva that year, which discussed a draft convention that the committee had prepared and passed a number of resolutions agreeing to the establishment of national committees. These would supply voluntary medical personnel to armies in the field, and these volunteers would wear a white armband with a red cross as a uniform, a distinctive sign. Another important step was the conference's recommendation that all countries adopt a uniform flag and sign for their medical corps and facilities, and that medical personnel, hospitals, and ambulances, as well as the wounded themselves, should be recognized as neutral. To give effect to these principles, at the behest of the committee, the Swiss government invited states to a diplomatic conference in which in August 1864 adopted a landmark Geneva Convention for the first amelioration, I think that's how you pronounce that, of the condition of the wounded in armies in the field. The core provisions of the convention were the neutrality of the wounded and those who care for them, and the adoption of the Red Cross and a white background as a distinctive sign for medical facilities and personnel, and an obligation to collect and care for the wounded, sick, and on a battlefield, regardless of nationality. Okay. Geneva Society for Public Welfare. Took up. Is this like a web-based note-taking app? Kinda, yeah. So this is my browser here is Notion, and then this is a ebook reader. I don't know how to pronounce it. Calibri. But yeah, it's my Notion. I have notes. These are bad examples because I don't have anything written under them. Organize a committee develop his ideas. In 1863. Da, 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 da. Committee organized an international conference in Geneva, which discussed draft convention, and the committees have passed a series of resolutions. According to the South and committees, these would supply voluntary medical personnel armed in the field. Volunteer or white Red Cross. Okay. I don't know if I care about that. Okay, so in August 1964. Alright, I guess we'll say first. The Swiss government invited states to do a diplomatic conference in August 1864, where the first Geneva Convention, or I'll say first because there's more. Geneva Convention for the elimination and condition of wounded. Or I guess that's the full name, so okay. Actually, I don't care about the full name. Where the first Geneva Convention was adopted. The key provisions being the neutrality to wounded as we care for them, the adoption of Red Cross as a distinctive single, and that stuff. The radical visions for the first time international law applied to an activity war which, apart from some maritime questions, have previously been ruled by force, moral ideas of humanity, moderated state interests, and international law protected private actors such as voluntary relief societies and battlefield. I know how hard it is to get audience retention, but I haven't got Subway Surfers GTA race levels yet. Wait till you stream Ruckus, Brian. I didn't know that. I mean, this is not a retention stream. This is just a reading to help me focus stream. I have plenty, like later today I'll do a stream to actually be interesting. There is quite a bit of, there's a lot of stuff I gotta react to so I can get those sweet YouTube views afterwards. Those in your top tradition, the committee adopted a name by which it is known, the International Committee of the Red Cross. Oh, that makes a lot of sense. Thus, the experience of one man witnessing the effects of the battlefield led directly to two milestones in the development of modern international humanitarian law: the 1864 Geneva Convention, and thus the founding of the Red Cross and the Red Crescent movement, and recognition of its contribution. Tuah was a joint recipient of the first Nobel Peace Prize in 1901. We've obviously read a lot of things from the International Committee of the Red Cross before. I don't know. You know, it makes a lot of sense that it's just a Geneva Committee renamed. I never drew that connection. But that makes a lot of sense. See, that makes more sense than what I was thinking about in my brain, which is for some reason the Geneva Convention still existed, and they had established the Red Cross. And the Red Cross has a committee, which then comments on international law. It makes a lot more sense that they just renamed themselves, and that makes a lot more sense why they comment on international. That makes a lot more sense. Yeah, because they have like their like rules and everything, which like reflect customary international law. It doesn't make as much sense if it's just coming from the Red Cross as if it's coming from the committee that made the Red Cross. That makes a lot more sense. Okay, I don't know why I did this. They later changed their name to International Committee. I should mention that they also did the Red Cross thing. Organized international continuity later discuss the my brain wants to do 1964. Mainly I need to myself. I mean, I multi-streamed it everywhere. I stream on fucking Facebook, bro. Because the document they had prepared, which passed a number of resolutions agreeing to establish a national committee, ceased with supply. Peanut draws, nice one. Meanwhile, the other major development of those arose indirectly out of the Civil War in the United States, 1861 to 1865. At the beginning of the war, Francis Lebert was a highly regarded professor. We've read a little bit about this before. I mean, the Lebert Institute obviously gets its name from the Lebert Code. It was a highly regarded professor at the Columbia, New York, writing and lecturing on military law. The war raised difficult legal questions for Union forces, such as whether the exchange of prisoners customary in warfare would amount to recognition of the Confederacy as a belligerent, i.e. a sovereign power, rather than an unlawful rebel force. Lebert published his opinions on these issues, and his advice was regularly sought by the Union government, particularly another international lawyer, Henry Halleck, who was appointed General-in-Chief of the Union armies in 1862. Lebert persuaded Halleck that because the existing army regulations were far from comprehensive, a code of all the laws and usage of war should be drawn up. Halleck agreed, appointing Lebert to a war development board of 5 men to prepare such a code, drafted by Lebert and revised by the board. The instructions for the government of the armies of the United States were issued to the Union governments as General Orders number 100 in 1863. The Lebert Code was the first time a government had set up explicit rules not only on matters of internal discipline, as previous military codes had done, but also for the treatment of enemy forces and civilians. It covered in 157 articles everything from rules of occupation and enemy territory, protection of civilians and civilian objects, and entry into prisoners of wars to assassination, and the rules of applicable in the Civil War. The code had profound influence being adopted to varying degrees by Great Britain, France, Prussia, Spain, Russia, Serbia, the Netherlands, and Argentina. It formed the basis for the draft conventions in 1874 and 1880, manuals and the laws of war of land warfare prepared by the Institute of International Law. More enduringly, it found expression in the Second and Fourth Hague Conventions of 1899 and 1907 discussed below, as well as the later influence in the new conventions. Okay, during the Civil War. Or U.S. Civil War. U.S. Civil War. Difficult questions. difficult legal questions. We're raised. Or Union forces. Particularly. Would exchange of prisoners would amount to recognizing Confederacy as a belligerent. Okay, Francis Xavier. He's a highly regarded professor at Columbia, New York. Whose advice was often sought by the Union Army and General in Chief of the Union Armies, Henry Halleck. Okay, Halleck appointed LeBeer to a War Department board of 5 men to prepare a code of code of conduct, code of all the laws and uses of war that should be uses of war. Asking towards sometimes would to diversify. That's it. Does FB even have any monetization anymore? I have no clue. If they do, well, they have to. They definitely have monetization. I'm nowhere near ever meeting the requirements. I'm not even quite monetized on YouTube yet. I ain't getting Facebook monetization anytime soon. But they definitely have it. I don't think they have, like, I don't think you can donate through Facebook or anything, but they definitely have monetization. I don't know for live streams if they do, but they definitely do for videos and pages. Looks like they do. Requirements. Minimum 10,000 followers. 600,000 total minutes viewed in the last 60 days, with at least 60,000 minutes of these 600,000 total minutes must include minutes viewed from live videos. Page must have at least 5 active videos, including at least 3 previously live videos. So does that mean I need to upload 2 videos as well? Dude. Why are the requirements so large? Who meets these? Ninja. And Descendants. What? What? Who on earth meets those? It can't be. It can't be many people. Ninja probably meets it, but like 80 likes. Does he have 600,000? Well, he probably does. 600,000 minutes. LeBear Code. It's the first time a government had set explicit rules for the treatment of enemy forces and civilians. I was typing real fast, spelled everything real wrong. It became to some degree implemented in, they said, Britain, Argentina, France, some other fucking places. Also formed the basis of the Draft Convention in 1874 and 1880 to the Manual Law of Wars and a War prepared by Institute of International Law. I don't know if I need this. I'll just say. Also became on later IHL treaties and conventions, such as the and I have to head out now. Thanks for stopping by, Chris Brian. Welcome to the stream. Hope you enjoyed. Hopefully stop by again. Make sure everyone, right, hit that like and sub button, guys. You can notify when I stream, when I do non-boring streams. Exclamation point Discord in the chat. Join the Discord. Owned the second and fourth Hog conventions. Then the sounds are loud as fuck. Welcome back, Shane Gang. Yeah, that's haven't you heard? Have you not heard that loud equals funny? This guy's behind. The 1868 St. Petersburg Saints. You're gonna rip someone's eardrums out. The louder, the funnier. St. Petersburg Declaration. The 1860s saw another innovation with the 1868 St. Petersburg Declaration, the first international agreement to prohibit particular weapons. Bullets had originally been invented that exploded on contact with the target and were being adopted for military purposes. Because such bullets would cause considerably more damage to the human body than traditional bullets, the Russian government decided that they were inhumane for a weapon and invited states to an international military commission to discuss the issue. And the results were a binding declaration ratified or ceded by 19 states at the time, prohibiting the use in wartime of bullets which are explosive or charged with fulminating inflammable substances. With many at the time believing it the object and making wars to kill. It is particularly significant that the participants noted that the need to consultate the necessities of war with the laws of humanity and affirm that. How do I pronounce this?
Conciliate.
Conciliate. Oh, conciliate. I know. I just can't fucking read. Conciliate. I know the Cancer ADHD Subway Surfers meme, but that follow animation is actually is an actual deafness speedrun. I know you got the content, but also stay safe, bro. You should see what the follow animation is when someone follows. It's not like loud or anything. Don't worry about the eardrum thing. You stay safe too, bro. But okay. The 1868 St. Petersburg Declaration was the first international agreement to prohibit the use of certain weapons do you think my community college there's any international law courses that I could take to just be a slack off class because I am reading all this shit and I can make it useful? I doubt it, but maybe. Bear to use a certain weapon. Oh, they probably teach you more like law stuff that I'm not going to care about. I mean, Bear will. Bear to use certain weapons. In particular, the use of exploding bullets. The only legitimate object of station endeavor to accomplish during wars to weaken military forces. Enemy, if that purpose is insufficient to disable the greatest possible number of men, that its object would be exceeded by the employment of arms, which would uselessly alleviate suffering of disabled men or render the death inevitable. That the employment of such arms would therefore be contrary to the laws of humanity. The treaty, should I call it a treaty? The convention. Participants. Noted the need to conciliate this necessity of war with the loss of humanity. And this is also and these are both like major IHL concepts. This, and I would say this is a target, the only legitimate object of station endeavor to accomplish during wars with the military. Oh, wait, it says the concepts of balancing military humanity and avoidance of unnecessary suffering are the heart of international humanitarian law. Oh yeah, I guess I'll just quote the thing. And I can just make this bold. That's not the right button. Concepts listed here of balancing military necessity and humanity and avoidance of unnecessary suffering are the core of IHL. They discuss further in Chapter 2. The 1868 Additional Articles, 1874 Brussels Declaration, 1880s Oxford Manual. I think I don't know how many of these are still like binding or whatever. I remember Isaac brought up the 1907 Hague conventions when we were talking about the pager attack, and I was like, are they still binding? Do people still care about those? I would imagine all these have basically been subsumed by additional protocols 1 and 2, and maybe the Geneva conventions. after World War II. I don't know. I don't know if any of these are really still fine. I'm pretty sure additional protocols 1 and 2 basically have all of these like principles listed in them. But also, I mean, those are just the most like modern things, and they're the ones I've done the most reading on already, because those are the things everyone cares about. Some states attending the St. Petersburg Declaration conference have been willing to broaden the discussion to consider prohibiting other barbaric means of warfare, but this was precluded by other states, notably Great Britain, which insisted on retaining complete freedom in the choice of means. Fundamental divisions between states as to the existence and extent of the laws and customs of war continued for the next 36 years. In 1868, an unsuccessful attempts were made to clarify some of the provisions of the 1864 Geneva Convention and extend them to naval warfare. In the additional articles relating to the condition of wounded in war, the additional articles did not come into force, but their object was eventually achieved by one of the 1899 Hague Conventions. In the Franco-German War of 1870 and 1871, the belligerents accused each other of violating their laws and customs of war, and public opinion in many European quarters demanded an end to the uncertainty and anarchy surrounding these questions. This led the Russian government to again take to the initiative in inviting states to a conference in Brussels in 1874 to discuss the draft code for the law of war on land. The first draft was prepared by Flodokovich Martens, revised and expanded by the Russian government commission, and submitted to the conference. The conference agreed a draft code in the Brussels Declaration in 1874, drawing in the parts of the Liberal Code, but states were not ready to commit to such binding prescriptions as to how they should conduct war and defend themselves. A major disagreement concerned the laws of occupation, a subject of great contention in the Franco-German War, and in particular, who would be entitled to combatant status when a population took up arms against the occupier. The declaration, influenced by states such as Holland and Belgium, recognized as lawful combatants a population that arose en masse against an occupier Germany could not accept. Great Britain also ostensibly opposed to a binding code, while the smaller powers called for a code of invasion. The 1874 declaration lacked any binding effect, but the following year the newly formed Institute of International Law began work, using the declaration as a starting point on ways to restrain the destructive effects of war while recognizing inevitable necessities. As the rapporteur of the project, Gustave Monnier, a leading member of the original committee for the Red Cross, noted the Institute accepted that an international treaty was perhaps premature. It was therefore preceded and adopted as a meeting in Oxford in 1880, a manual on the laws of war and on land that it hoped states would use as a basis for national legislation. Okay. Fuck. What were the articles? The articles were about the unsuccessful attempts were made in 1868 to extend, clarify some of the provisions of the Geneva Conventions and extend them to naval warfare. In the additional articles related to the conduct of the war. These were never binding, but did end up but were eventually due to that. Okay. Russia once again held an international conference this time in Brussels. To draft a code of conduct for land warfare. Disputes between Germany, France, and Britain. Da, 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 da. Meant the code. I meant the to allow for binding agreement, but it was used as a okay, but it produced and adopted as media offered in 1880. Well, I mean, well, I hope states would use for national legislation. The 1899 and 1907 Hague Conventions. As the 19th century continued to see more wars, rapid advances in weaponry, and mounting expenditure in arms, the Russian government once more promised an international conference. In 1898, it invited all states represented in St. Petersburg to a conference with the object of seeking to limit the progressive increase in military and naval armaments. A question solution of which becomes evidently more and more urgent in the view of fresh extension given to these armaments and of preventing armed conflicts by pacific means. The proposed subjects for discussion included the prohibition of new weapons, adapting the Geneva Convention of 1864 to naval war, and a revision of the 1874 Brussels Declaration concerning laws and customs of war. It was thought more conducive to an agreement to hold a conference elsewhere than in a great power, and the Netherlands obliged by offering the Hague as a venue. 76 states attended what quickly became known as the Peace Conference in 1899. The work of the conference was divided into 3 commissions, the first on limiting armaments and military expenditure, the second on the laws governing the civilized warfare, of which Martin was appointed chair, and the third on mediation and arbitration. After 2 months of meetings, the first commission failed to achieve a consensus on disarmament, but the other commissions were more successful, with the conclusion of several important treaties. Okay. 1899 conference. International conference held in Where's Netherlands? Name their shit stuff. I've always when people say the Hague, do they mean the city or do they mean the Hague is the capital city? Yeah, fuck this shit, dude. It messes up with the grammar because they're, the Netherlands named themselves the Netherlands instead of a normal fucking country not having the word the in there. This fucking city is called The Hague. But I also like, when people get accused of war crimes, they're like, oh, send them to The Hague because is it where the ICJ is? For the war crime, yeah. Or it's the ICC. But also the ICJ. And the permanent court arbitration and the organized prohibition of chemical and 200 other international. Held in The Hague in the Netherlands I think it held in Hague in the Netherlands. Divided into 3 committees. The first 2 the first on limiting armaments and military expenditure, the second on laws governing civil warfare, and the third on arbitration and mediation. I don't care about Martinez right now. Okay, the first commission failed to achieve a consensus armament. The other commissions were far successful at the conclusion of several important treaties. The Convention for Specific Settlement and International Disputes. The Convention for Respect the Laws of Custom of War on Land. The Convention for the Adaptation of Maritime Warfare and the Principles of the Geneva Convention of August 22nd, 1864, Hague 3. The Declaration of Launching the Projectiles and Explosions from Balloons. Declaration of the Use of... hold on, this is funny. Is this still in effect? Contracting powers agreed to prohibit for a term of 5 years. Oh, damn. The launching of projectiles and explosive balloons. Declaration of use of projectiles, the object of which is diffusion of asphyxiation or deleterious gases, and the declaration on the use of bullets which expand or flatten easily into the human body. In the Convention of Pacific Settlement of International Disputes, the states agreed to use their best. Okay, the first failed to achieve consensus. But the other 2 led to multiple important treaties, concluded with several important treaties. Uh, 57, 58, 59, where's 60, 60. Okay. Pacific Settlement and International Disputes, states agreed to use their best efforts to ensure that the Pacific Settlement of International Differences and to establish a permanent court of arbitration which disputes could be referred of even greater significance to the law of armed conflict, what's the Second Hague Convention, the first internationally agreed, legally binding code, at least some of the laws and customs of war and land. The detailed rules were based on the 1874 Brussels Declaration, which in turn had drawn its life and spirit from the Libera Code. Another successful to the conference was the Third Convention, finally applying these substances of the 1864 Geneva Convention and the protections of the Red Cross to naval warfare. One of the outcomes of the conference was that it has come to be appreciated more at the passage of time, which the Martins Clause discussed in more detail in Chapter 2 below. A second peace conference, okay, so States agreed to and the establishment of a permanent court of arbitration to which disputes could be referred.
Hey,
Hey, what's up?
I'm good. So did you reach any conclusion with the pager thing? Is it booby traps or is it not?
Nope. I've not looked more into that. I haven't even been streaming, so I haven't been reading about it. I've been
Oh, okay.
gooning.
What IHL are you reading about?
This is just right now we're going through like the history of some of the conferences. This is just a I read this book. I downloaded this book to go over to targeting law, but I found that pretty interesting. So I think I'm going to read most of it to
Okay.
get some
Interesting. Okay.
Apparently,
Remember how I told you not to be part of Hezbollah?
Remember.
Yeah. I'm again vindicated. Now that Nasrallah is gone.
Dude, have you I haven't read into it yet, but apparently like all the intelligence the IDF had on Hezbollah is like absolutely insane. Like they had so many spies, they had so many they had fucking everything on them, dude.
I didn't look into it, but they had to, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like they're literally
Yeah.
they're collecting like data of like every Hezbollah member's like cell phone and their wife's cell phones. They have his car's odometer. Like they have they hack CCTV
What are you basing this on?
footage. The Financial Times did a report on it.
Maybe. Possible.
It's
You got a spy too on that thing.
True. Dude, I watched
Epic.
every episode of Talk Tuah.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, it's only 3, but yeah.
Are you still sane?
They're like not like super bad. They're not anywhere near good, but like they're
Okay.
it's like I usually didn't want to shoot myself while watching them. It wasn't like watching Hassan. So
Yeah. Did you see the Hassan thing with the Nick guy?
dude, yeah, I mean, you saw my tweet about it. It's insane how he can bring on this like totally like
All right.
uneducated dude on his stream and just be like, yeah, Hezbollah, is this it's perfectly legitimate organization. They're just enforcing their water rights and like, yeah, and like the clips of him being
I
like,
made a meme about it in DGG and it was a banger.
it is a terrorist organization. Oh well, then I don't like them.
Yeah, I made a meme about it in DGG and it was a banger. Check this out.
Faith with the goth girl I picked up starts talking about crystals.
It's true.
That's true.
Epic. Yeah, well. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it seems like Israel is like doesn't have much to focus on in Gaza. That's why they could divert more force to the Lebanon thing.
Yeah. Well, apparently Hezbollah
Yeah, well.
was doing shit in Syria too, and that allowed the IDF to infiltrate them more easily. So.
Did you watch 12 Angry Men?
No, but Talk To was just as good.
Good.
So.
You should. Well, so long. I'm a little tired, so long.
Yeah. Well.
Talk to you later. Or
Good.
talk to
Bye-bye.
later.
Talk To.
Wait.
Good one, bro.
Wait,
Good one,
cars. Did you change your mind on cars?
bro. I have no. But my opinion on Cars 2 is just that it's a stupid movie, and therefore it's funny to pretend that I really like it. But it's that's the
No, but think about it. If someone made a movie where it's like, I don't know, like your underwear can talk. Okay. But then none of the plot is necessary for them to be like having talking underwear. So like, what's the fucking point of the thing? You just called it like, talking underwear, and that's the name of the movie now. But then just a thing, but the plot could have just easily been like, I don't know, something else. Like, I don't know. None of it is like, yeah, you're not exploring the concepts of having a talking underwear. Look,
Yeah,
yeah, I don't know.
obviously they obviously just want to sell toys, and cars is a good way to do that.
Right, exactly. Yeah, you have to apply the dialectical materials to analysis. You gotta. What do you think of the argument that, like, how do you respond to someone saying, like, oh, CEO pay has increased a gorillion%, but workers' pay has not, so therefore it's all bought and sold, unpaid for then.
I mean, one, I would say like, I mean, people make up absurd things about like real wages being like totally stagnant for 30 years.
Yeah.
I would say, I mean, I would somewhat half agree with the point that like I think union power has probably decreased and has probably allowed CEO pay to increase more than it arguably should have. But like, you know, the stockholders of the company probably wouldn't be paying the CEO if they didn't think that he was at least a.
But don't you think
Close to
that
that
BlackRock is owning everything?
Oh yeah.
Look, I mean,
BlackRock
all
is-
the stocks nowadays, it's like, I was talking to someone and he was like, he based his entire case on like Meta, where their stock, I don't know, they have like privileged shareholders, and they're appointed by the CEO or some. I don't know how even that works, but like it's not represent. I don't know. I hate people with no opinions.
Well, there's also
Ask
like,
a communist to define.
Didn't
Go
Elon
ahead.
Musk try to pay himself a ton of money and his board stopped him? Board.
Oh, that's possible. I'll look into that. But it's just ask a communist to define how like a CEO works and stocks work. They'll implode each time. Also, I don't know if I got this challenge from Destiny. I don't know if you know about this, but this is like the best challenge you can ask for Trumpists. Okay, ask him, can you find me? Because look, think about it. Trump has been in politics for 9 years. Okay, he is so interviewed. He is so photographed, so recorded.
Is it,
Okay.
Can you find any clip of
Ask
him
him-
sounding intelligent?
Any clip sounding intelligent for like 1 to 2 minutes long, any transcript, anything, any record of him sounding intelligent. I asked a Republican this yesterday. They sent me his RNC speech accepting the nomination. It's like, that's not a topic. He's not talking about a topic. Maybe you vote for him because you're retarded like him. I don't know. Fuck,
Yeah, I
hate-
asked
hate Republicans.
that localist dude who, you know, is supposedly, you know, big like localist guy, but also happens to side with fucking Trump in every issue. So he like unironically believes that immigrants are eating cats and dogs. Like he
I mean, that guy's
January
insane,
6th was
right?
a
I
big
mean,
deal. Like it's yeah.
that guy's
But-
insane. I mean, we showed him clips of of Pence saying Trump asked me to throw away votes and reject the Democratic election. He's like, actually, technically, blah, blah, blah. No, I mean, it's just whatever. I don't know. You
Yeah,
have to
it's
cope and lie to be a Trump supporter. And you know what's interesting? Look, the challenge about find me a clip of Trump sounding intelligent. This is such a basic, rudimentary thing that if you cannot, so two things. One, if you can't find it, that shows like such a grave indictment of your guy and yourself. So that's terrible, right? And I'm not saying find within 5 seconds. Find within like 10 minutes, even 5 minutes. You should find a clip of 1 minute at least of Trump sounding intelligent, and you can't. So one, it's such a grave. It's like asking you what's your name, right? And you don't remember.
Yeah.
That's like a really bad thing. That's a really, really, really bad thing. That's the first thing. Second thing is, if you ask Trumpist that, they usually start objecting not to they don't like start sending you many clips. They object to the idea of someone sounding like they say, what does it even mean to sound competent? That's subjective, bro. How get to, which is like interesting because think about it. You can go the philosophy route. It's not an interesting conversation, it's an obvious cop out. But think of what it says about the question, because again, it should be very readily available. Think of it like this. I know that strawberries exist. I've seen many strawberries, and I know for a fact, very confidently, that they exist. If you were to go into the room and challenge me about the existence of strawberries, which should be, if you support Trump by now, you should know that he has like intelligent clips, right? You should, right? It should be something plentiful. If not, that's a really bad thing that your guy sounds retarded all the time, right? But either way. Yeah, so it should be akin to asking for someone for proof of strawberries. Now, I don't carry around So if you were to challenge me on like strawberries existing, I don't carry around pictures of strawberries. But if you were to ask me like, what sample text, you think strawberries exist? Show me a picture of any strawberry ever. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
you'd be able to.
what I would do is I would spam the fuck out of you with images of strawberries, even though I don't carry them on my own all the time. What I would not do is be like, what does it even mean for a strawberry to be in a picture? Like, how do you know when the strawberry begins and ends? And I mean, how do you even, right? Like, maybe like when is it like because of evolution? When does the strawberry stop being a strawberry and it's a new species? It's like actually, it's a really hard. Like, that's not. I would never do that. Like, yeah, you can go to the philosophy, but like, why? I have a bajillion, gajillion pictures of strawberries. I don't need to, right? That's like so frustrating. That's like that shows they know they're wrong. They know they're
Yeah.
wrong all the time, and that's what is like insane to me. It's insane to me. But yeah, I don't know. So that's a useful rhetorical device to ask Trumpist. Like, can you send me one clip of your guy from the last decade sounding mildly intelligent that's more than a minute long? Talk about any topic you want: the economy, immigration, stocks, foreign policy, domestic policy, abortion, gay rights, whatever. And the standard for intelligence should be he speaks like he could handle a conversation with an expert. It's like the standard should be. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, Delaware.
What do you think about
Delaware
do you
court
follow
judge.
foreign policy?
Do I follow? I mean, a little bit. I don't know. But yeah, Elon Musk's $55 billion pay package was blocked by Tesla's board.
Oh,
Or wait, or no. Or was Tesla's board of directors approved it in 2018 through a process that apparently a court found deeply flawed. I don't know. I don't remember the controversy over it, but it was I thought there were some people on the board who thought the compensation plan was literally insane because he was literally giving himself like fucking half of Tesla's profits or whatever. It was wild. But I mean, what do you mean by follow it? Like I keep track. Like whenever we give more money to Ukraine, like I think we just gave $2.4 billion to Ukraine and Zelensky. I think Zelensky is still here right now. But yeah.
Yeah, wait, one second. Yeah, but yeah. Wait, I wanted to ask something. Give me a second. I think I forgot.
Nice one.
Wait, 1 second. Come on. I'm not dumb. Well, I guess I am dumb. I guess I am like fundamentally stupid, right?
Damn. Yeah.
Yeah, no idea.
That's
Wait. Oh my god, it just popped into my head and then disappeared. What the fuck? Not cool. Well, I don't know. If I'll remember, I'll ask you. But okay. Talk to her later, right? Epic.
Yep. Talk to you later.
Yeah. Wait, just again popped into my mind and I forgot. It's insane. It's insane. It's not okay. Well, yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye. That guy. Why can't I close the stupid Discord telling me that I'm the only one here and to invite friends? It's making fun of me for having no friends. What the hell? Okay, established under the fucking court, and then there were 2 or 3 other things that were important. We've been granted an to the law on conflict. First internationally agreed, legally binding code, at least some of the laws, customs, war, and land. The detailed rules were based on the more. Even more important. Let's see. First, binding or legally binding code of the laws and customs of war on land. Another success for the conference was the third convention. Third convention. Finally. Oh, did you remember it?
Wait, I have no, I don't. But I have another question that's interesting. Okay, it's like,
Okay.
look, on the talking about philosophy instead of like important stuff. I was once talking to a Trumpist about January 6th, okay? Because that's disqualifying for Trump, okay? And no rational person should ever vote for him because he tried to overthrow an election. And I said that, and the response was not to deny the facts, it was again to bicker about the terms. And they did that in the most insane possible.
Localist
And I
does the
wonder,
same thing. Localist, every single time I bring it up, says, "Why are you using the word overturned? The results of the election aren't official until they certify the vote." So we're gonna
no,
try
it
to
was
overturn
worse than
'cause
that.
the
It was
result,
worse than that. It was worse than that. Here, so
Oh boy.
I'll repeat to you the argument that I was given, okay? So
All
yeah,
right,
tell me why you think Trump should not be voted for because of January 6th, okay?
Me?
Go
You're
ahead.
asking me to do that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was a blatant, like, stress test of democracy. We just say, like, he clearly has no respect for the constitutional republic. He clearly has no respect for democracy, which I believe are both fundamental to, America and American
Okay.
values and American
Well,
success.
think about it. Okay,
Like,
so you think he tried to overthrow a democratic election? Now, look, let's say Biden would have lost, and let's say you're a religious guy and you pray to God that somehow Biden still ends up president. Well, that's you trying because you're praying. Obviously, you're praying because you think it will succeed or you want it to succeed. So that's you trying to overthrow the results of the democratic election, right? And I wouldn't not vote for you because of that, because you prayed. So I don't think trying to overthrow the democratic results of an election is that meaningful. It's like, how would you even respond to that? How would you even respond to that? I don't know either.
I think that
Just
would be
mental illness.
disqualifying just because you're a fucking retard if you're praying that the election is. Please, dear God, make Joe Biden the president again. Please, dear God.
Yeah, I mean, if someone did that, would you think they're like a fascist with no respect to democracy? I wouldn't. So it's like,
I just think
it's
they're dumb.
fine. That's exactly like what Trump did. Yeah, yeah. I don't know how to respond to someone with that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think they live in a different world. It's like
Yeah.
almost impossible to like.
Very silly. Yeah. Well, so long.
Yeah. Second peace conference was in what?
Envisage.
Envisaged? Oh, I know it. I'm just tired. Envisaged, and with Russia preoccupied with its war in Japan, the United States proposed such a conference in 1904. On the conclusion of the Russia-Japan War in 1905, Russia resumed its previous role and arranged a second conference in 1907, again in The Hague, where 44 states were represented. One of the aims of the conference was further developing the humanitarian principles on which the 1899 conference had been based. It was recognized that many of the provisions agreed in 1899 could be refined and improved, and other aspects of warfare addressed. These aims were achieved in 1899. The conventions were revised and new treaties adopted. Wait a second. What does it say? So we just proposed one? Does it matter if we didn't do it? Who gives a fuck? Okay. Arranged the second conference in 1907 again in Hague. Where 44 states aim to further develop humanitarian principles of war. For convention revised and expanded upon its 1899 predecessor, Hog 2, in 1899, and similarly annexed detailed regulations respecting the laws and customs of war, as explained in Chapter 2. Many of these Hog regulations remain core rules in the conduct of armed conflicts, so they're still binding. Both conventions are still in force, although as parties between the 1907 convention, it replaced the 1899 convention. A contemporary commentator summarized the principles of the conference as fourfold: providing for a third conference within 8 years, the adoption of a convention for the non-forcible collection of contract debts, substituting arbitration and appeal to reason and force, appeal to reason for force, and appeal to arms, establishing a prize court to safeguard neutrals, and laying forth the foundations of a great court of arbitration, meeting in addition to Peru's establishment of a court of arbitration and a new court of justice. Okay. (1899) treaties. Revised, and 10 new treaties. Adopted. Fourth convention revised and expanded upon its predecessors. Okay, so it goes on to okay, mention the fourth one here. It doesn't have a separate one for the fourth one. Okay. When was it? The fourth? What does it mean, the fourth convention here? Like the fourth thing? I think that's what it means. Okay. I'm just going to say treaty so I don't confuse myself in the future. Fourth treaty. 5 things on its 1989 predecessor. Do I even? I don't even if I need that. That's what they all planted. Okay. Both conventions are still in effect. Although as between parties to 1970 convention to replace the 1999 convention. Principal achievements of the conference. Can be summarized. As 4-fold. There's probably a way to... that's fine. Whatever. Interestingly, some of the same commentators regarded the conferences themselves as part of an even greater importance than the conventions they produced, because they showed that practically all nations of the world recognize and applying international law, coming together to discuss and debate matters of universal interest, and just the smaller, more exclusive bodies reach results of the greatest value of mankind. Alright, I'm hot. I need to take this sweatshirt off. The 1949 Geneva Conventions. Hold on, let me turn my fan off. First World War precluded the holding of the anticipated Third Hague Peace Conference. Do you hear it on my microphone? You probably do. It's fine. I'm just reading. It's fine. I could, yeah. Oh, my preamps were already kind of low. Well. Whatever. Get fucked. Precluded holding the anticipated Third Hague Peace Conference, but the international community continued its efforts to humanize war. One of the recommendations of the 1899 Hague Conference had been the revision of the 1864 Geneva Convention, and this put into effect by the 1906 Geneva Convention for the amelioration of the condition of the wounded and sick in the armies in the field. Further contracting parties, the 1906 Convention replaced that of 1864, and was in turn replaced by the 1929 Convention for the amelioration of the condition of the wounded and sick in the armies in the field, which, among other provisions, formally recognized the Red Crescent and the Red Lion and Sun in addition to the Red Crescent. What the fuck? The Red Lion? Oops. Red Lion. Symbol. Meaning. For why? Iran was established mid to the Red Cross. So some reported symbols introduced at Geneva in 1864 as a countermeasure to the Red Crescent and Red Cross used by two of Iran's rivals. Okay. What's up, Golden Snake? Not fun doing a morning stream. Who are you? What have you done with the real not fun? I ruined his sleep schedule by a lot. By I shouldn't have, but I did. Whoopsie. Yes, that's why we have the morning reading stream. Welcome back, Golden Snakey. Fuck, I don't even remember what I read. Okay, so World War One, couldn't hold the other next Hog conference. But in 1929, they did pass, or 1906. No, we read that. Time for your early bird gets to worm morning stream arc. I mean, like, I get more viewers late at night. Like, I don't typically, like, when I start streaming at 7, which is like usually about when I start streaming, I get more viewers at like 2 a.m. when I'm about to go to bed. Like, the issue is typically I feel like the 7 to 2 a.m. stream slot works pretty well for me because like that way I still have time to edit some videos before I go to bed and get them out and post them on YouTube before it's like so late that it totally fucks my sleep schedule. Usually I can be like in bed by 4 a.m. and then like I can sleep from like 4 a.m. to 2 p.m. and 2 p.m. is like an okay time to wake up. Like I don't totally miss every single thing that happens in the day when I get up at 2 p.m. as opposed to getting up at like 7 p.m. I feel like that schedule works well for me. But Franson, relative to the treatment of prisoners of war, supplemented the provisions also subject to high regulations. Other important treaties were included into war periods, such as the 1925 Geneva Gas Protocol and the 1930s, the ICRC. Prepared a number of draft treaties revised in the 1929 Convention concerning the wounded and sick, adapting its principles to maritime and air warfare and hospital and safety zones in time of war, and in the protections of civilians in occupied territories. The intention was to submit the drafts to the diplomatic conference, but again, war intervened, and in light of the Second World War, the drafts were significantly revised. The result was 4 draft treaties that became the 1949 Geneva Conventions. Okay. First World War. First World War prevented the holding of the Third Hague Peace Conference. Few treaties were passed between did you remember it?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Did you follow the Marcellus Williams case?
Nope.
Oh, never mind then.
Oh, okay. Did new evidence come out or something? Like
No, he probably did it, and TikTok is just like brainwashing people. Still against the death penalty, though. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what
Still against the death.
I didn't really follow it, but like Isaac told me, he's like, yeah, I looked into it, he probably did it. I don't know if people are so upset about.
I know. And what's annoying to me is that do you know Yuval on TikTok?
No.
Don't worry about it. The guy's a total imagine people who are otherwise intelligent, but like they always defend like one position because this guy is obviously defends what's left wing all the time because I don't know, like audience capture or something. I don't know, but I don't know. Bit like SDL question mark? No. Either way. But yeah, well, that was interesting. But I don't know. What's up with the hurricane in North Carolina, Tennessee? I mean, you guys are good?
Well, yeah, I don't live in a part of North Carolina got hit. Only like the really like far west part of North Carolina got hit. But I don't know.
Okay.
Some people are mad at Biden for no reason. They're just lying. They're like, I can't believe they're doing the same shit they did with Hawaii.
I
where they're like, we're giving all the money to Ukraine.
I was just gonna say, yeah, you get your infrastructure is so bad, but you give gajillions of money to Ukraine, and all these bombs to Israel just to vaporize children. I mean,
I know. Yeah.
I mean, what about investing in the American people?
Yeah. Don't
I
do
don't know.
anything
This
for them.
sentiment is so popular. Do you know who Mini Minutemen is?
Yeah, I think that wasn't he was the guy on anything else, right? Isn't he the TikTok
Bridges,
debunker
on
guy? Or on
Bridges.
Bridges?
Yeah.
Same thing. Yeah.
He's based. He's based. But then, I don't know. He's probably politically retarded because the moment I open his, he has a new video out, like debunking the guy who he debunked before. He had like a dog shit response, so he debunks him again. And so, and he says like, and I'm with you because why are corporations are so evil and minimum wages have not been and blah, blah, blah. And also, why are we sending bombs to other countries to vaporize children? It's like it's such a simplistic, retarded view of the world. Like I don't know. I don't know. I feel like a lot of people who are otherwise smart just say left-wing things because the right is so obviously horrible. They think like automatically I can just say populist left-wing things and it's gonna be correct. I don't
Yeah.
like that. I don't know how to address that.
I don't know.
I
I
don't
saw
think
some
that's
clips
that
of
people.
Mark Robinson complaining that
true.
apparently our governor wasn't doing enough either. I don't know if that's true or not, but I'm not
Oh,
going to take anything from
yeah.
Mark Robinson seriously.
Let's imagine that your government totally dropped the ball. I'm still not voting for a black Nazi.
Yeah, I know,
Fuck
yeah.
you, not doing that.
Dude, I
That's what I'm
want
telling
to.
people. Imagine Trump was better on all the policies. Imagine Trump had my policies. He agreed with me on everything. Social issues, economic issues. That's still
Still
not
not
going to make me vote for him because he tried to steal the election. Never voting for him.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't know.
I wanna print out. I wanna buy yard signs that have some of the nude Africa forum posts he has like printed out.
Yeah.
We'll have like the Black Nazi one. We'll have the wet anal pissy sex with his wife's sister.
Let's go.
And I'm just
Let's
gonna
go.
put it next to all the Mark Robinson yard signs I see.
Go. Well,
I
don't
think that'd
assault
be funny.
people's property, but don't violate people's property. But
I'm not gonna do it. It's just a funny idea I had.
okay,
It'd be funny.
Okay. You think that's funny? Tell a joke right now.
A joke?
Yeah, dude.
So you know stare?
No.
Rail. Hit him with the bro fell for the oldest trick in the book. Bro didn't know the so you know stare rail. Bro got fucked. In the end of World War II. I don't know why they keep bringing up the red crescent and red line stuff. That's like the most irrelevant. Like, who cares? Replace the old. 1906 convention. (1925) Geneva Gas Protocol. Perhaps you. Oh, that makes more sense. I don't know how to do with like liquid natural gas and shit. I was confused. That makes more. That makes more sense. And the 1930s. Okay. Prepared a number of draft treaties, revising it 29 ones. World War II. Prevented international conferences. Until 1949, when 4 draft treaties have been drafted. 4 draft treaties have been drafted. Further revise. Submitted as 4 draft treaties. The Geneva Conventions have received universal acceptance, having been ratified or acceded by more states than there are members of the United Nations. Each convention details a distinct topic. The first, GC, Geneva Conventions 1, or GC1, concerns the amelioration of the condition of the wounded and sick in armed forces in the field, and replaced the 1864, 1906, and 1929 conventions on the same subject. The title itself is noteworthy in that it refers to armed forces rather than armies, as its predecessors, reflecting the enlarged scope of the protection afforded by the convention, including, among others, members of organized resistance movements. As discussed in chapters 4, as was inspired by the answer to legal status of partisans. I have a question for you, unrelated, but it's quick. Sure, what is it? Some more stuff about femboys. By understood legal status of those people in occupied territories in the Second World War. The convention is longer and more detailed than the 1929 convention, and its provisions are considered in detail in chapter 4 and 5 below. The convention. I need to untie this. Second convention details. See, okay, I need to write down the first one first. Once I untie my fucking. There we go. Okay. I know you're fairly left. I would say so, yeah. First convention. Considers the amelioration. Armed forces. Are you weeble at all? Do you know One Piece? I know of One Piece. I've not watched any anime, other than season 1 of Pokemon when I was like 10 years old. But other than that, I've never watched any anime. I have played League of Legends once when Isaac made me for Bro vs. Bro. Question I have is I heard left people very mad about Robin's live action casting because she's a Jew. I have no clue, but that wouldn't surprise me. Have you heard anything about this? No. What's her name? Robin's One Piece. Time for you to be an early bird. What? Oh, you said something in it. Redacted the messages. Live action. I don't know, it wouldn't surprise me. can't wait till the new Captain America comes out, and it has Captain Israel. In support of Ukrainian plight simply due to their nationality. Superhero movies are trash because they've always been trash. They can read as much as they want. That's not true, dude. Spider-Man 2 is fucking goated, man. Notably, refers to armed forces rather than armies. To make it clear, it includes armed resistance groups in occupied territories. I don't even watch many movies, man. I watch fucking YouTube all day. I don't even. That's all I need. I have YouTube Premium, and that's all I need. Pay $15 a month for YouTube Premium. Actually, you know what? I could probably get my YouTube Premium reduced because I have it's like school email now. I could probably do that. I should do that. Alright, the second convention deals with the amelioration of the conduct of the wounded, sick, and shipwrecked members of armed forces at seas, and adapts a revision of the first convention to maritime warfare, placing the 19th. Okay. Second convention. Applies the same. Adopts the same provisions as the first to maritime warfare. To short cinema so much that a movie like Beetlejuice is top in theaters. What's wrong with Beetlejuice? I have not seen Beetlejuice. Any of the... I mean, I'm pretty sure there's multiple Beetlejuice movies and musicals, right? I've not seen any of them. You know, actually a great movie. Like, I don't even know what that is. Isn't afraid to even be mentioned. Nobody would see it. Therefore, it came out in 2008. I'd be nominated. It's very mid. I mean, I watched Inside Out too. That was okay. The third Geneva Convention is the detailed code and treatment of prisoners of war. Is the exhaustive detail, Article 143, 143 Article 97 in the 1929 Convention, necessitated by the experience in the Second World War. The third convention. Details the treatment of prisoners of war. 143 articles of exhaustive detail. You should watch the trailer. It's called Rumors. Always producing a political comedy coming out soon. Oh wait, I didn't read the first one. I need a copy struck for
This
this.
is
I
a
better
very
not.
exciting find.
So what is this? It's quite gruesome.
This is an example of what we call bog bodies.
Joe Biden.
Mummified from the Iron Age.
You see, his penis has been severed and hung around his neck.
Sounds like a man to me.
For hell.
Look at us, the esteemed leaders of each of these great nations.
We are also here to produce a
Just
draft
pause and talk about it. Yeah,
provisional
criticism and review.
statement regarding
Fair
present
use.
crisis. We should not forget that.
It is important to say what we mean.
Yes, of course. People look to us to provide clarity.
He feels the burden of leadership.
You can't solve all of Canada's problems.
But I could use a drink.
Oh,
Where's everybody? I don't know.
what happened?
I believe we are in a crisis.
We already knew that. Why are you covered in mud?
There was nobody on the ground.
And it attacked you?
What were they then? Terrorists?
They loomed threatening me.
Protect us.
That's what I thought to at first.
We have been abandoned.
It doesn't make any sense. No one is coming.
Wildly
Something
entertaining.
apocalyptic has occurred. It's the dark ending our species deserves. I understand you're upset. Run!
It's intense. I think a massage might help.
This happens every time he drinks.
I love
Okay. I don't know if I can show that on. That should be fine, right?
Caught up in the dramatics.
Germany got up into dramatics.
Yeah, no, I can tell.
What is this large bring?
Would have been funnier if it had Sleepy Joe in it.
Det finns storm som naggas.
She can only speak gibberish.
Bäraren av deras budskap.
Swedish.
She's just speaking Swedish.
What's the difference? The 1929 convention had, for example, applied primarily to members of armed forces captured by the enemy, thus excluding prisoners of war status for those surrendering. The 1949 convention spells out to a degree expands, and to a degree expands the categories of persons entitled to prisoner of war status, and thereby indirectly defining who is entitled to combatant status in armed conflict. The 14th Naval Convention is the protection of civilians, is primarily in occupied territories, the need for which was made adequately apparent during the Second World War, when millions of civilians were left without protection at the mercy of the enemy power, who were liable to be deported, taken as hostages, or interned in the concentration camps. Hundreds of thousands among their number met a ghastly death. The main purpose of the Geneva Convention 4 was to protect civilians from arbitrary enemy action, and it contains detailed regulations on the treatment of civilians in occupied territories or who are aliens in the territory of a party to the conflict. The scope and effect of the conventions are examined in Chapter 6 below. I've heard a lot about Comment Article 3. Okay. It also somewhat expands what people are entitled to prisoner of war status, thereby indirectly defining who's entitled to combatant status. Fourth convention details the protection of civilians primarily in occupied territories. Comment Article 3. Before 1949, Geneva Conventions have several articles in common. Particularly worth noting here are Comment Article 3 discussed in the next paragraph, and Comment Article 2, which applies to the conventions to any international armed conflict, deals with a conflict between two or more contracting parties, whether or not the conflict is formally recognized as a war. The article applies the conventions to the cases of occupation, even if not resisted by force. Finally, the article provides that the convention is binding contracting parties not only to themselves, but also, unlike the other Geneva Conventions, as between them and any non-party that accepts and applies the relevant convention's provisions, although this is less of significance today with the universal adoption of the conventions. Comment Article 3 is one of the most important articles of the convention. It arose out of pressure from the Red Cross role to regulate not just international but internal armed conflicts, the horrors of which sometimes surpass the horrors of international wars by reason of their fractal hatred and which they engender. In negotiations for the 1949 Geneva Conventions, it was proposed that a provision may be inserted requiring all parties to internal conflict to implement principles of the convention. Many states oppose this, however, arguing that this would in effect confer legitimacy and protection to rebels or even common criminals using force against the government. The eventual compromise was Common Article 3, which in essence says that the parties to a non-international armed conflict must respect and apply certain fundamental principles which are listed. This characteristic led to it being described as a convention in miniature and ensures the application of at least basic rule of humanity even in internal conflicts. For 1949, Geneva Conventions have several articles in common. Most notably, Common Article 3, which says in essence the parties to a non-international conflict must respect and apply certain principles which are listed. The 1977 Additional Protocols. I don't know if we'll read all this. I don't know. We'll see. The ICRC continued its efforts to expand the content and application of the international humanitarian law, and in particular the protection of civilians. In 1956, it published draft rules on the protection of civilians in times of war, which should have afforded civilians greater protection from the effects of hostilities and especially from nuclear, chemical, and biological weapons. The draft rules attracted little support from states and were not pursued, but over the next few years, the wars in Vietnam, Nigeria, and the Middle East, and many violent anti-colonial struggles reawakened the international interest and the need to update and fill in some of the gaps of the 1949 convention. The Hague Convention had not significantly revised since 1907, despite the changes in the nature of war and warfare that had occurred. The ICRC therefore prepared two draft protocols in addition to the Geneva Conventions, and these were drafted and debated at diplomatic conferences in Geneva, which sat in 4 sessions from 1947 to 1977. The two additional protocols were adopted in June 1977 and concerned the protection of victims of international, non-international, respectively, armed conflicts. Okay, so okay. ICRC. I'll say the two additional protocols to the Geneva Conventions. Were debated at a diplomatic conference in Geneva for 4 sessions, and eventually adopted in June 1977. AP1 and AP2 concern the protection of victims of international and non-international, respectively, armed conflicts. I never. This is usually how I see it written. Not international and non-international armed conflicts, respectively. Additional Protocol 1, Wars and National Liberation, and Guerrilla Fighters. Applies in international armed conflicts, but is radical, including that within that term, armed conflicts when people are fighting against colonial domination and alien occupation, and against racist regimes in exercise of the right of self-determination, commonly known as wars and national liberation. It has been a dominant form of conflict. Then why? Okay, well, I know it's contested whether the Israel-Gaza conflict is international or non-international in nature, and even Lebanon, Hezbollah, it's conflicted whether it's contested whether it's international, non-international in nature. Although I'm pretty sure with Hezbollah it's more. With Hezbollah right now, I think it's pretty generally considered to be non-international in nature. But obviously, like when Israel is fighting Hezbollah, but it's literally doing a ground invasion of Lebanon to do so, then I could see how that gets kind of murky. Why did I open Twitter? I wanted to open. Hamada. I want to open something. What's this? Okay. We'll read to 11. Additional Protocol 1 applies in international armed conflicts, but it is radical and including. Within that armed conflicts is when people are fighting against colonial domination and alien occupation, against racist regimes, in the exercise of the right of self-determination. Concerns or applies in international armed conflicts, but includes in that armed conflicts in which people are fighting against colonial domination and alien occupation, against racist regimes, and the exercise of the right of self-determination, or what are called wars of national liberation. There have been a dominant form of conflict since the 1950s, as colonial people fought against the colonies for independence. The Palestinian Liberation Organization fought against the Israeli occupation, alien occupation, and various mainly guerrilla groups fought against the apartheid regime in South Africa and Namibia, and the white minority government in southern Rhodesia, racist regimes. These kinds of conflicts raised issues not adequately addressed in the 1949 Geneva Conventions or the Hague Conventions. In particular, the legal status of guerrilla fighters or freedom fighters more generally, and whether they were entitled to prisoner of war status on capture, The solution adopted in Protocol 1 was to extend its application to such wars of national liberation as defined, while expressly stating that this had no effect on the legal status of the parties of the or the occupied territories. Did expressly state its protections of armed groups had no effect on legal status of parties to the conflict or in any occupied territory. Over the objections in many Western states, the protocol relaxes the requirement for combatant and therefore prisoner of war status for those in wars of national liberation. The Geneva Convention 3 requirements in relation to resistance fighters included that they wear a fixed distinctive sign visible at a distance and that they carry arms openly. Additional Protocol 1 recognizes that the very nature of guerrilla fighting precludes this, and at minimum, fighters must only carry with them arms openly during each military engagement. These are discussed in detail in Chapter 4. And in part explain why the protocol has not received the universal acceptance of the Geneva Convention. By the end of 2014, there were 174 parties compared to 196 for the Geneva Conventions. Everyone also only requires that fighters at minimum carry their arms openly during military engagement, as opposed to Geneva Conventions 3, which requires fighters wear a fixed and distinctive sign visible at a distance and have to carry their arms openly. This is part. The reason it hasn't seen universal acceptance has I don't believe Israel's party to the additional protocols, but they obviously recognize that a lot of the stuff in the additional protocols 1 and 2 reflect customary international law. Signed, AP 1. Is Israel party to additional protocol 1? Israel's not a party to additional protocol 1. But except so some of the provision accurately reflect customary international law. Wow, that's what I said, guys. Wow, clip it, wow. Additional Protocol 1 recognizes the very nature that Additional Protocol 1 was also innovative in including one of the more intermittent provisions that hitherto had been found in either Geneva Convention or the Hague Convention. Thus, to some degree, maintaining Geneva law with Hague law. This is analyzed further in Chapter 2. Okay. Before 1977, the only... fuck. That's the end of that. Okay. Additional Protocol 2. For 1977, the only rules of international humanitarian law applying to non-international armed conflicts were those contained in common Article 3 of the 1949 Geneva Convention. While a breakthrough at the time, that article is far too brief to provide a useful set of rules for what has become the prevalent form of the conflict. It is estimated that some 80% of the victims of armed conflicts between 1945 since 1945 have been victims of non-international armed conflicts. In the lengthy negotiations of the protocol, many states were concerned that such a treaty might affect state sovereignty, prevent governments from effectively maintaining law and order within their borders, or be invoked to justify outside intervention. But eventually, set up provisions was agreed, albeit far shorter, merely 28 articles, than supporters had originally desired. Recognizing the regulation of non-international armed conflict was a relatively underdeveloped area of law. The preamble to the protocol includes a paragraph containing the essence of the Martins Clause, recalling that in the cases not covered by law enforced, the human person remains under protection of the principles of humanity and dictates dictates to the public can be conscious. The protocol, in addition, not a replacement of Common Article 3, and the two instruments have slightly different field of application. Common Article, okay, so additional Protocol 2 is in addition to, provides additional protections to civilians. Alright. Expands on Common Article 3 to provide additional protections to civilians. Common Article 3 applies to any armed conflict that's not of an international nature occurring in the territory of a contracting party without defining a term. The application of Additional Protocol 2 is narrower, applying to such a conflict if it occurs between the state's armed forces and either dissident armed force or other armed groups. It applies when conflict is between the state's armed forces and either dissident armed groups or organized armed groups. More applies more narrowly than Common Article 3 only when conflicts between states armed forces and either dissident armed force or other organized armed group. Furthermore, for the protocol to apply, those groups must be under responsible command and exercise sufficient control over the part of the state's territory that are able to carry out sustained and concerted military operations and are able to implement the provisions of the protocol. Those groups must also be able to implement a protocol for it to apply. These qualifications should a protocol only applies to conflicts of a certain degree of intensity and application to internal disturbances such as riots or isolated acts of violence are expressly excluded. I mean, that's kind of obvious, but like, you know, that doesn't make sense why obviously the additional protocols or additional protocol 2 especially is more narrow. It doesn't afford as many protections as some of the other ones, yeah. As additional protocol 1, because I guess, yeah, it makes sense. It would open up the door for it would limit states' abilities to govern even within themselves to, you know, prevent riots and insurrections and, you know. When it does apply, requirement of control of territory meant in practice, protocol rarely applies in modern internal armed conflict. It's much more suited to the type of civil war where insurgents gradually acquire control over greater portions of state territory. When it does apply to protocol, it includes provisions on protecting civilians from attack and guarantees basic humane treatment for those not taking direct part in hostilities. Its specific provisions are considered in relation to particular topics throughout this book. Like AP1, the Additional Protocol 2 has not received universal acceptance, with only 167 parties by the end of 2014. States that are not party to the Additional Protocol, either additional protocol include the United States, India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Nepal, and Israel. The states are nevertheless bound by the relevant rules of customary international law as explained in the next chapter, but to the extent to which the provisions of Additional Protocol 1 have attained the status of customary law is contested. Maybe 2. That's also not reached. Universal acceptance. It's only 167 parties. However, they are still bound to provisions which reflect customary international law, were specific, or the extent to which the provisions in a protocol reach the attained status of customary international law is contested. Other IHL instruments. Why is it doing that? The above section trace history to principles, treaties forming the core IHL. In addition, there's a growing body of treaty in respect to armed conflicts, including a number of treaties prohibiting the use of certain weapons or means of warfare, such as chemical weapons, cluster weapons, or personnel mines. These treaties are discussed at relevant places in text, especially in Article 8. There are several other treaties codifying IHL in particular. A number of treaties restricting and prohibiting certain means of weapon warfare, such as all those. The development of the International Criminal Law, ICJ, or the ICTY, that always messes me up. The International Criminal Tribunal for former Yugoslavia, whatever the fuck. The ICTR, International Criminal Tribunal, Rwanda? Yeah, fuck yeah, Rwanda. I'm always right. ICC, International Court, and ad hoc courts and tribunals. Did I say I was going to read up to 10? How long is 11? Give me a second. Okay. We'll fucking read it. Fuck it. Okay. That way I can say I did a chapter. What's up, Inappropriate Interwebnet? Welcome back. One final development that you mention here is that the international criminal law and its role in enforcing international humanitarian law, as described in this chapter, increasingly detailed rules on the conduct of armed conflict have been developed in customary law and by treaty, but these provisions, in particular before 1949, have a very little to say about the consequences of breaching the rules. Broadly speaking, the rules may be breached by either the state itself, for example, by continuing to produce a prohibited weapon, or by one or more individuals participants in the conflict, such as a soldier who kills a prisoner of war. Both kinds breach the state's responsibility in international law. The obligations are IHL's sham through the international law. The obligations are legally those of state concerns, since it is states that are party to the relevant treaties and subject to customary international law. The detailed provisions and prescriptions and prohibitions in the Hague regulations rest upon the states. Rest upon the direction of states to issue instructions to their armed land forces, which shall be in conformity with the regulations annexed to the present convention. The state's responsibility for a violation of the regulations by its armed forces is affirmed in the 1907 Hague Floor Convention. And in more recent times, the International Law has commissioned articles on the state responsibility, which most of which are accepted as reflecting customary international law. A state injured by such violation may either be a claim for compensation or other reparation of their wrongdoing state, or of the wrongdoing state, or more likely during an armed conflict, take reprisals against the wrongdoing state. In earlier times, this was the only sanction practically available, as von Martez wrote in 1788. In time of war, a prisoner of war may sometimes be put to death in order to punish a nation that has violated the laws of war. War itself being the last state of violence, there often remains no other means of guarding against future violations of the part of an enemy. As explained in Chapter 8, however, modern laws progressively shrunk the scope of lawful reprisals almost to extinction. But what individual violates the law? Okay. Okay. International criminal law takes IHL norms, or it takes IHL norms and criminalized system. Violations can be committed by states or by state parties for which there is little legal reprisal. Violations can also be committed by individuals in armed conflict, or individuals. I don't really mention armed conflict. Obviously, it has to do with armed conflict. Violations were punished in two ways in earlier times. First, the individual could be punished by his own state in accordance with state domestic laws, usually with military justice system in extreme cases, even by the death penalty in battlefield. Second, individuals could lose their entitlement to be treated as belligerents, lawful combatants, therefore could be severely punished as ordinary criminals if captured by the enemy. By 1905, Oppenheimer was referring to war crimes, by which he generally defined as such hostile acts of soldiers or individuals which may be punished by the enemy, captured the defender. The 1949 Geneva Conventions laid out the foundation for the modern understanding of war crimes, as explained in more detail in Chapter 9. They require states to take measures to take any measures necessary to suppress contraventions of the convention, and in case of defying grave breaches, to prosecute or extradite any accused person. Thus, the Geneva Conventions confer onto state universal jurisdiction to prosecute those accused of grave breaches in the convention, but this is not guaranteed that an alleged war criminal will actually be tried, particularly in their own state. For which states are required to take any measures necessary to prosecute breaches to extradite, prosecute or extradite any accused person. That's great. States universal jurisdiction for grave breaches. A, the International Criminal Court. This is one of the reasons why the international community resumed its efforts to establish a international court that would have jurisdiction to prosecute these offenses. These efforts date back to at least 1920 when the League of Nations considered a proposal for a court to try crimes against the universal law of nations. The proposal was not taken up. The League taken a view that it was premature because there was not yet any international penal code recognized by all nations. Similar proposals in the 1920s and 1930s came from international bodies such as the International Law Association, the Interparliamentary Unions, and the International Congress of Penal Law. That included the creation of a criminal chamber within the Permanent Court of International Justice. All met the same fate. The atrocities committed in the Second World War prompted the victorious allies UK, France, and the USSR, US, UK, France, to create the Nuremberg and Tokyo military tribunals, which in 1945 to 1946, German and Japanese major war criminals were tried for crimes against peace, war crimes, in a strict sense, and crimes against humanity, as defined in the Nuremberg and Tokyo charters. Establishing an ad hoc tribunal was a traditional method by which a victor prosecuted violations of the law of war committed by the enemy. The significance of the Nuremberg and Tokyo tribunals lay in their detailed definition of crimes against peace, war crimes, and crimes against humanity, and in the principles of war established by the charters and judgments as excluding obedience to superior orders or claims of immunity as defenses. Proposals for a truly international criminal court continued to be made. For example, during the drafting of the Genocide Convention, some states wanted the crime of genocide to be triable in an international court, but agreement could not be reached on the nature of the tribunal and vision or its precise jurisdiction. These were questions referred to the International Law Commission (ICL) 1947 with the direction to formulate the principles of law based on a charter of the Nuremberg Tribunal and a judgment of the tribunal. Okay, so after the Second World War, or after World War II, the International Law Commission was tasked with formulating a international criminal. Should I say an international criminal court? International criminal. Based on the I'll say like Tokyo and Nuremberg. How do you spell tribunals? Nuremberg and Tokyo military. Okay, where's the Due to the crimes against peace, war crimes against humanity, and as well as the principles of law established by charters and judgments, including the offenses. Moral significant. 2. International criminal law. Okay, so formulate the draft code of offenses. The ILC produced a draft code of offenses against the peace and security of mankind in 1954, including as offenses aggression in various forms of interstate force, genocide, and human acts against the civilian population, and acts in violation of laws or customs of war. The problem at the time was that states could not agree as what constituted aggression, and it was decided to defer consideration of the draft code while the UN General Assembly worked on the question of defining aggression. This took 20 years. The ICL resumed work in 1982, producing a revised and updated draft code in 1996. The intention behind the code was to codify a body of international criminal law, with states having universal jurisdiction to prosecute specified international crimes, except for the crime of aggression, which could not be prosecuted only in an international criminal court. Could be prosecuted only in international court. The other specified crimes were genocide, crimes against UN personnel, crimes against humanity, and war crimes. The latter two categories being exhaustively defined, no further action was taken on the draft code after 1996. A separate strand of ILC's work on this topic was drafting the statute for an international criminal court. The commission had briefly considered this in 1950, and a committee of the General Assembly had actually drafted such statute in 1951. It was taken up again in the 1990s, part of the draft code on international crimes, and finalized in 1994. The General Assembly convened diplomatic conferences in Rome in 1998. The Rome Statute. Other review of adopting a convention establishing an international criminal court based on the ICL draft, refined by predatory committee that met several times in 1997. On 17th of July 1998, the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court was adopted. The crimes covered by the Rome Statute. Okay, so. ILC drafted a statute for an international criminal court. Finalized in 1994. General Assembly convened a diplomatic conference in Rome with a view of adopting establishment based on ILC. Okay. Was adopted. Covering crimes. Such as genocide, war crimes, crimes against humanity, and aggression, as discussed more in detail. Court's jurisdiction is quite narrow, one constraint being that except where a situation has been referred to by the court by the Security Council, an individual can be only be prosecuted if the state where the conduct occurred or of which is accused as a national, either a party to the state statute or accepted the jurisdiction of the court. The court formally came to existence in 2002 and delivered its first conviction in 2012. I didn't know. I thought it was newer than that. Because I thought the Yugoslavia tribunals were at the ICC, but I guess not. I guess it was just a tribunal. Maybe that's what I call it that. Courts. Jurisdiction. I'll keep it. Pretty narrow. So accused of a national theater party to the statute to accept pictures in court. This is why, even though like Israel isn't a party to the ICC, they can still be charged with shit because Palestine is, or like the Palestinian Authority recognizes the jurisdiction of the ICC, and so they claim any crime that happens within their territory, Israel can be prosecuted for the ICC, or by the ICC. And the Palestinian Authority, at least de jure, claims that Gaza is their territory as well, even though Gaza isn't controlled by the PA, it's controlled by Hamas. Hamas does not accept ICC jurisdiction as far as I'm aware. In later stages, rather than a Rome Statute and finally reached an agreement of executive equivocation, states were clearly influenced by the recent establishment of ad hoc tribunals, ad hoc criminal tribunals described below. B, the ad hoc criminal tribunals for former Yugoslavia and Rwanda. Almost there, almost there, almost there. Trend away from impunity towards accountability for international crimes continued in the late 1990s with the creation of hybrid courts and tribunals, post-conflict bodies with criminal jurisdiction, usually based within the state judicial system, but with a mixture of national and international judges and staff applying both international and domestic law. These include a special court for Sierra Leone, the special panels of District Court of Dili, the Special Tribunal for Lebanon, and the Extraordinary Chambers in the Courts of Cambodia and Extraordinary African Chambers. The Special Court in Sierra Leone was established between... Okay, so... Before the ICC was established. Accountability for international crimes. Was accomplished with criminal post-conflict bodies, the creation of hybrid courts and tribunals with the mixture of all that shit. And then we'll mention that, and then we'll go one by one through these, I guess. The Special Court for Sierra Leone was established by an agreement between the UN and Sierra Leone in 2002 to try persons who bear the greatest responsibility for a series of violations of IHL and Sierra Leonean law committed in the territory of Sierra Leone since November 30th, 1996, the height of the country's decade-long 1991-2002 civil war. It is a mixture of Sierra Leonean and international judges, and tried 10 individuals before its closure in 2013. The most notable being conviction being of Charles Taylor, president of Liberia, for committing crimes against humanity, violations of Common Article 3 and Additional Protocol 2. And other serious violations of international humanitarian law, namely conscripting and enlisting child soldiers, a residual court established in 2012 to oversee the illegal. Okay, what actually happened to this guy? I'm pretty sure people in Yugoslavia were given the death penalty. Access terrorism, guilty, 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 guilty. Sentencing hearings were committed May 3rd. Announcement Taylor was sentenced to 50 years in prison. He was 64 age at the time of prison, making his sentence effectively de facto life sentence. Sierra Leone's government described the sentence as a step forward as justice has been done. The magnitude of the sentence is not commensurate with the atrocities committed. So sentence at HM prison. Really, this looks like a lame ass prison. All the fucking international criminal end, dude. Jared's attorneys filed a motion on transfer to prison in Rwanda, but a margin motion was denied. He was ordered to continue serving sentence in the United Kingdom. And the International Machine found that he was making phone calls from prison to provide guidance to National Patriotic Party to threaten some of his enemies. In October 2021, Taylor filed a complaint against the Liberian government for non-payment of his retirement. This complaint was lodged with the Court of Justice Economic. Okay, wow, awesome, dude. Eco ones, yeah. He's the last, really the last one on the notable prisoners. I have other fucking convicted terrorists. None of these are war criminals, though. Are these domestic terrorists? Yeah, these are domestic terrorists, aren't they? This is a British town. Anyway. Vice Court for Sierra Leone. Was established in 2002 via an agreement between UN and Sierra Leone to prosecute violations of IHL and Sierra Leonean laws during its 1991 to 2002 Civil War. Had a mixture of Sierra Leone and international judges and tried 10 individuals before its closure in 2013. With no documentation between Charles Taylor, President of Liberia, for crimes against humanity, violations of Common Article 2, Protocol 2, and other serious violations of international, namely conscripting child soldiers. By the way, I threw part of this mic stand away because my fucking mic stand was supposed to be here 2 days ago, man. And just because there's a hurricane, they delay its delay. I don't even know. They haven't even mentioned how long it's gonna be delayed. I had to go fucking dig up the clamp out of the trash. Who knows? I'm looking at my fucking eBay messages. Hold on. People suck. Okay. Oh, it's still just on the way. With no estimated delivery date. Okay, well. In 2000, the United Nations established special panels as part of its daily district court to prosecute serious crimes committed in East Timor. In the lead up to the referendum and independence in 1999, the offenses were set out in extensive detail and included genocide, war crimes, crimes against humanity, murder, sexual offenses, and torture. The panels were composed of 2 international judges and 1 East Timorese judge, and the applicable law East Timor, where appropriate and applicable treaties are recognized. Principles and norms of international law, including establishing the principles of international law on armed conflict. Until the demise of 2005, the panel tried nearly 90 individuals, mainly members of pro-Indonesia militia, for their role in the violence. I'll mention that. Applicable law was that of Eastern Reeds, where applicable treaties, international law. Panel tried over 90 people. Mostly from Indonesia's, or nearly. Toss it over at members of pro-Indonesia militias. The extraordinary chambers in the course of Cambodia to prosecute the crimes committed during the period of democratic Kampuchea were established by the UN Cambodian Agreement in 2003 to try senior leaders of the democratic Kampuchea. The name of the state established by the Khmer Rouge 1975 to 1979, and those who were most responsible for crimes and serious violations of the Cambodian penal law, international law, and custom. Okay. International immigration law, customs, and Cambodia. And others who were most responsible for their crimes, serious violations of Canadian international immigration law. Nearly 2 million Cambodians died or executed from starvation, again to both Canadian and international judges. As late as 2014, they convicted 3 individuals. Expected that there will be no more convictions. No more than 10 indictments in total. (2014) ICC. Convictions. This is not from. This is in Africa. Convictions. Voting. What is this? ECCCC. Okay, series of 3, as it's no continued to be upheld by Prime Minister. 3 component judges defended their position. The opposite by stating that arresting component society is regarded as humiliating. Oh, it's just it. Okay. In 2007, a special tribunal for Lebanon was created by an agreement between the UN and Lebanon to establish a tribunal of international character to try all those who were found responsible for the attack of February 14th February 2005 was killed the former Lebanese prime minister and 21 others. The tribunal's statute provides for the majority of the international judges. Majority judges to be international, the remainder Lebanese, but the applicable law is Lebanese. Most judges are international, but the applicable law is Lebanese. Finally, mention could be made to the Extraordinary African Chambers, a more recent hybrid court established in Senegal in 2012 by an agreement between Senegal and African Union. The chambers, okay, chambers have a mixture of Senegalese and other AU judges, and mandated prosecuted persons who must respond to international crimes committed in Chad between June 7th of June 1992 and the 1st of December 1990, the dates during which that guy and president don't care. The applicable law is the provisions of the Chambers statute, supplemented if necessary by Senegalese law. 2013, Hussein Habra was charged with crimes against humanity, torture, or crimes he had long been a resident of Senegal or resisting efforts by Belgium to prosecute him in that state for the same crimes. These international hybrid courts and tribunals vary considerably in their material scope, but have strong similarities in the internationalism of the judiciary and the applicable law. Some have been or are more likely to be much more successful than others. All are extraordinarily expensive, but their mere existence is an indication of the international community's increasing preparedness to impose and enforce international criminal responsibility. However, each of these courts and tribunals described above, with the exception of the Extraordinary African Chambers, would not have been created without Security Council approval, meaning, of course, that if a nuclear war is to descend to prosecution, individuals will be limited to the ICC if it has jurisdiction, or to domestic courts. Conclusion. This chapter is outlined how and why IHL has developed. It has been seen that significant changes that developments in the law have been the international community's response to war or other calamity. The law is therefore sometimes criticized for being one war behind reality, but this is unjustified for at least two reasons. Okay. This chapter, as outlined, why and how IHL has developed. Often in response to war or other calamity. This is why IHL is often criticized as being one war behind reality. This is unjustified for at least two reasons. In the first place, the law is the only way states prepared to make it, whether by treaty or by custom, but does not have their minds of its own. Second, though this strenuous effect, through this strenuous efforts of certain individuals and organizations such as the International Committee to Reconcile, are in fact provisions designed to ensure that law is applied to new and unforeseen situations, the Martyrs Clause being the prominent example. Dude, I forget what that was at this point. That's the, I remember who the guy was. Tell a more complete code of conduct that awards issues to high contracting parties and get right to declare that in cases not included by the regulations ultimately on populations must remain under protections and under the protection and empire of the principles of international law. They must as often the use of established between civilized nations. Okay, well. Tell a more complete code. Clause not appeared in 49, but it was included in Digital Protocol 1. Calling out a case not code right. The law enforced the human person remains under the protection principles of humanity and the dictates of public conscience. Nevertheless, there are areas in law, such as governing non-international armed conflict, where there remains far less developed than others. The history summarized in this chapter shows that over the years, the body of law governing armed conflict has grown, along with mechanisms for its enforcement and growing substance accountability for violations. The next chapter provides an overview of the law and explains the fundamental principles and sources of that law. There are still areas like laws governing non-international armed conflict that remain less developed than others, but over time, the body of law going out called it grown along with mechanisms for its 400 growing accepted violations. Growing sense of individual accountability for violations. The next chapter provides an overview. The law explains fundamental purposes. Ugh. Contemporary legal basis of international humanitarian law and its fundamental principles. Did I even finish this chapter? Introduction. I don't even think I finished this chapter. It's the funny thing. I just read the irrelevant things, which was nice to read. Yeah, we got to precautions in defense. But if I go to 7 here, which is under what? It's under precautions in attack and defense. Was under additional rules in targeting military objectives. Yeah, and then precautions in attack and defense. But we didn't even read the part, so I mean, it doesn't really matter. I just let me make sure that I marked down that I have not read all of this one, so I remember not to skip it. Okay. Watch me bang this out real quick. Canada to Venezuela. Easy. United States, Mexico, Guatemala, Honduras. United States, Mexico, Guatemala, Honduras, Costa Rica, Nicaragua. I skipped that one. Panama, Colombia. All right. That was a nice reading stream. Okay. We had our chapter for today. I will stream again probably at like 7 p.m. today. Because again, like I said, my Cisco is broken. I gotta go back on the fucking track. Okay. I appreciate you guys watching. I love streaming. Love you guys watch me stream. Again, I will make sure to hit that follow button so you can see a reading stream, a non-reading stream. I'm mostly non-reading. I'll probably still read a little bit at like 7 p.m. Gonna be reacting to Piers Morgan. Gonna be reacting to Jubilee. Done already well. Yeah. Well, I mean, for like reading shit, like, you know, like a 3-hour reading stream, like it's not very long, but it's what I can do at 7 a.m. Okay. There aren't many people streaming that I can raid. I guess go to fucking Central Committee. Alright, again, thanks for watching. Make sure to follow so you can watch a more entertaining stream. And in like a few hours, I'm going to probably take a nap. I will see you guys later. Thank you so much for watching. Again, love streaming. Love you guys watching stream. Appreciate you guys. See you later. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye, chat. Love you. Bye, chat.